Thanks everyone for joining me. This is April with the Travel Collective, and I'm excited to have another conversation with Linda, the smart travelista, she's a book author. She's got a series of books on tips, things to help you out, but also just her own fun travels, things she's learned, things that she's pushed the edge on, and it's a great read. So today we're going to have a conversation about some of the 2025 travel trends. Conde Nast, still has a printed travel magazine, which you might see in the airports around the world. It's available online. They highlighted a few different trends. So I know I asked her to pick out a few that we could chat about. So welcome, Linda.
Oh, thank you, April. Thanks for having me. So, yeah, one of the travel trends that I thought it straight away jumped out at me was night tourism for 2025. Now, I think tourism is a good thing. So, if we think about the climate, and in the middle of the day, it's quite hot if we're talking summertime. So, the night times are usually a lot cooler. So, it's becoming very popular to do tours and activities after 6 p.m. But it's not only that. When we talk about night tourism, there's also places like going to search for the Northern Lights. So that's an activity that would be sort of probably around midnight or later in the night. But then there's also things that we've traditionally done, which we wouldn't have thought was night tourism, but it really is night tourism, going on ghost tours
Yes.
at night. Um, Also, another thing that we do without thinking about it is going to night markets. Night markets we could consider as night tourism. Um, and also, I've heard that this is a thing that they're actually doing skiing at night.
Doing what?
Um,
Oh, skiing at
Doing
night.
skiing.
Yes.
Yes,
I think
yes.
there are some sports that are happening at night. And I agree. I think night tourism for 2025 really can open up some opportunities to take advantage of, again, climate, the heat. I know when I was in Egypt, it's even in November when it typically should start to be cooling off. It still has the last couple of years been still in November, very, very hot. So our guide even suggested let's take the break during the middle of the day, take your nap, maybe take some pool time or read your book and be ready to go. Like you said, after 6 o'clock, we'd go to the pyramids, we'd go
Mm.
to some of the ruins, and they had them lit up. They had a guide. There was less people. It was cooler. It was a much better experience, actually, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be doing a bit of night tourism when we meet over in Europe. I'm going to head to Iceland and I'm going to go chasing the Northern Lights because I've never seen them. So I'm also very excited about that. But yeah, it makes a lot of it's very much common sense to do things when it's at night because it is cooler. Obviously, if you're going somewhere in winter time, it's probably cool any time of the day, but especially in summertime. I mean, I don't know about you, but every summer seems to be getting hotter every year. And yeah, you absolutely want to rest through the middle of
Yes.
the day. You want to do what the Europeans do and have a siesta,
Right.
and then go out at night. So I'm glad that it's becoming more popular. And yeah, I was really excited about that being a travel trend for this year.
Oh, I am too. And I think more cities are embracing that trend. We've seen Christmas markets for years in Europe where they have it lit up and the lights, and it's really beautiful and experiencing, food and music and all of those things happening at night after dark. But also, I think more cities, even in the United States, they're kind of looking for things like wintertime. So many of us are kept inside. So having night activities, like you mentioned, night skiing or setting up an ice skating rink and having the shop stay open later and offering reasons, art fairs, reasons to get out, to be social and explore an area at night in a different way.
Yeah, and I think for Scandinavia too, they're in darkness for quite a lot of the time around winter. So it's really a given, isn't it? They're going to be doing activities at night because it's
Right.
dark, even though technically it might not be night, but it might as well be night because it's dark for a good
Right.
portion of the day. So yeah, it's really interesting and exciting.
I agree. And I think there's also been a little bit more attention to the dark skies. I know here in the United States, and maybe it's something they're starting to designate worldwide as kind of these dark sky destinations where you can actually just go outside and see all the stars and the Milky Way that you can't observe, in our, city environments where we have a lot of light pollution. So that to me is kind of exciting. I'm kind of looking at like places where like, oh wow, wouldn't it be super, relaxing to be outside and stare at the sky, have a chair, have something comfortable in my hands to drink and just observe and hear different sounds, what's going on in that environment at night, far away from, the rest of a city or something.
Yeah. And I think doing things at night too is a quieter time. And if you like the slow and quiet travel, then that will fit you perfectly.
Yeah, that's a good one. So what was one of the other trends that jumped out at you on the list? There were
Um,
several.
yeah, so I would say the detour destinations. So um, I've actually written about this on my blog, but over
Okay.
tourism, there's places, not so much detour, but about over tourism. With over tourism, you're going to places and there's lots of crowds, and sometimes you want to be in the crowds, but sometimes you don't want to be in the crowds. So destination detours or detour destinations are going to places that aren't quite as popular, that aren't suffering over tourism. They're a bit quieter, and you can get a chance to escape the crowds. So, for instance, you could go to a place, say, like Bali, Indonesia. That suffers a bit of over tourism. But if you get into the hinterlands in places like Ubud, that is not as populated, and you could really do like a detour from Denpasar or Kuta and go into more the jungle area, which is a lot quieter. So I think people are probably a little bit over places that have got a lot of tourists. We've all been guilty of that, like, go to Rome or Paris. If you're in Paris, you go to the Louvre and there's hundreds, if not thousands, around the Mona Lisa. And then if you go to Rome, you're going to the Trevi Fountain or any of those other places, Spanish Steps. People are everywhere, especially if you're there in the middle of summer. But say you were going to Italy, it would be okay. You could go to Rome, but then why not do a detour to somewhere quieter like Bologna or
Yes.
Florence or some of those other, or Verona or some of those other places that are a little bit less they're on the off the beaten track and maybe not as many tourists. Um, again, it probably fits into the wellness and the mindfulness travel and doing a bit of quiet travel. So, sometimes, and it depends on the individual, you might want to be in the crowds and you might want that excitement and that stimulation, but then you might want like a quieter holiday also. So I think G2 destinations are absolutely would fit the bill.
Oh, I agree. And I think detour destinations also fits. Maybe you have been to, say, Paris many times and you want still that French experience, but looking for other cities in France that aren't as touristed. Look at what events might be happening there and really look at maybe why you're drawn to these places. Are you drawn for the art? Is it the gardens? Is it the outdoor markets and the fresh foods or, kind of what is your reason for going? And there's probably a destination that's similar, new to you, and it's going to feel fresh. It's that new sense of discovery that I think we all seek when we travel. And again, you may save yourself some time and money getting there because it's not as popular because unfortunately we're all excited to travel. Travel's become much more accessible. So some of the popular, well-loved places are just that they're getting overloved. So, we need to look for other
Yes,
destinations. So
yeah.
that detour
And one
thing of,
place,
oh, go ahead. Yes.
yeah, one place that was over tourism recently that I went to was Maya Bay in the PP Islands in Thailand. It's the destination where Leonardo DiCaprio's filmed The Beach. When he went under the
Right.
water and they were on the
Yep.
beach on that island. That is a totally awesome and very picturesque place, but full of people. Um, and but there are some other islands there that are very much that are a little bit more secluded that will actually give you that experience as well. Not to say that Maya Bay isn't a great place. It's such a stunning place. But try and go there when it's not peak season because there's just people everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing the same kind of in the United States. I mean, one of my favorite destinations in autumn is seeing the change of color, New England for fall foliage. But it's just getting, the roads are getting trafficked. Everybody's going to the same little scenics for that same picturesque photo when in fact, you do a little research. The Midwest has areas that have state parks with lovely hardwood trees, waterfalls, some colonial architecture with the steepled church. So kind of giving that same vibe, but just in a different part of the United States and seeking that out, doing a little research. Again, you'll probably save yourself some money, save some time, and find your own experience with the leaves. I mean, because part of the enjoyment of exploring maybe fall foliage is, being in the park, being outdoors, witnessing the colors, and sharing that sometimes shoulder to shoulder is just not the same. It's not the same
Mm.
experience. So I think Detour Destinations, it's
Yeah,
it's a
no,
good time for seeking those out.
yeah, I would agree.
So what was the next one you kind of pinpointed?
So longevity goes holistic. I think this is a really
Ooh.
interesting one. So, um, everyone wants to live to 120 years old.
Yes.
Well, we try and make at least 100. I think I'll be lucky because my nana, my grandmother, lived to 97. So we're
Oh,
doing all right if
yes.
I take after her. Um, but yeah, what it is, I think people are looking for a holiday that improves the quality of their life. So the day-to-day bustle, hustle and bustle, we become very stressed, and we are sometimes looking for something a bit different. So what this trend focuses on is eating healthy, exercising, getting a lot of sleep, managing your stress, which is always a good holidays, keeping your brain stimulated, which, as we know, is a very important thing as you get older, so you don't end up getting Alzheimer's or dementia, and engaging with others. So if you think about all those things that everyone tells us we should do, that's what you do on this holiday. So you could, do other wellness things like meditation, yoga. It might just be like quiet hiking, going out hiking and not talking to anyone, but being in the silence. But it's how you try and extend your life. Now, who doesn't want to extend their life? I don't know. That really intrigued me when I saw that. I'm thinking, hmm, might be a thing to put on my next bucket list, to
That,
go to somewhere like that.
yeah, I think that is intriguing. And I think there are people that literally, you know, um, both men and women are working equally as hard. That's a given now.
Mm,
And both doing, the professional grind and trying to do it all, raise the kids and do all of that. But at some point they need their own, the longevity vacation that is very intriguing because I think there are individuals that literally they can't carve out the time on their own in their own space. They need to like literally pluck themselves out, pack a bag and go somewhere. And maybe that's someone else is planning that for them. Maybe it's I've seen a lot of these types of wellness trips taking place. We hear about forest bathing and meditation and yoga getaways. Maybe even it's just a new skill, like you mentioned, hiking, people wanting to try something, a bicycling journey, maybe something that kind of challenges you both physically and mentally, but it's all the planning's done for you. So you're just going to show up and go and do and be in the moment. You're not having to take on that burden of such because for some people, they end up doing all the planning. And unlike you and I, Linda, they don't maybe want to do all the planning.
yeah, and I was just going to say you could take it up a notch as well and do a bit of biohacking while you're there, which people are still on the fence about, I think, but that apparently also gives you more longevity in your life. But yeah, it's very intriguing, and yeah, I actually did it on I've actually been on a wellness retreat,
Oh,
which I think probably fits into that category. And all I did was, well, we did meditation, we had massages, we changed our diet a little bit, did fasting, and I can say that I felt a lot lighter when I came out of there. Um, and, you know, as you do when you've started something like that, you always have the best intentions, but then life gets in the way. But, travelers could just go on a wellness retreat, even on a small scale, and you'd still be doing a really good thing for your health and for your life.
yeah, I agree. And I think right after the pandemic too, I think we saw a lot of even hotels picking up a little bit on this trend and continuing it, offering packages to come and get some massages or treatments or just be in a beautiful space that you maybe don't have access to on a day by day basis. And, even that disconnecting, dropping the phone in a box somewhere and, and just allowing yourself the rest, locking the door, so to speak, and maybe it's watching all your favorite movies and having someone create healthy meals because for a lot of people too, they don't know where to start with healthy eating or how to change some of the habits that they've unfortunately formed. So I love this
Yeah,
whole idea of longevity. I think it's exciting. I mean, we may even see new stuff. There's always new things coming up in that space for improving ourselves so we can live longer. I think it's super exciting.
yeah, I think it is too. And it's one thing I like about travel, there's always something different being introduced as a trend. You never have the same trend, or you do sometimes they just go in the background. Trying to do. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. What were your trends? What were your favorite 2025 trends?
I think I saw one well, I loved the night photography one. I also saw something on food centric travel a little bit. There's doing, a lot more happening with, foods. I mean, going to other countries, you're exposed to different things that are grown there, different ways of preparing foods, and a lot of times it's being in with that. Food is a whole experience in itself, and I admit I love to eat, so I think again, I think it opens up a world of new places. Morocco's a place I've never been, and now that I keep hearing about all the amazing fruits and vegetables and just the way everything is, they're taking those fruits right there and making it for you that day, which is something we don't often have in America. I live in Las Vegas right now. This Las Vegas is kind of not in the middle of a place we can grow things. So everything is shipped in. So we're not getting, the actual taste of great tomatoes or fresh fruits. And so that whole idea of food as a travel trend, I kind of like that too.
Yeah, I think there's certain countries that do it really well. Like if you're a foodie, Italy would be you'd be in heaven there. And just the way that they um, take food to another level, or eating actually to another level, it's like a celebration.
Right.
So their whole life is a celebration. They like to celebrate their life. I think they do that really well. They have a sleep in the middle of the day. Then they'll have a few courses of meals late at night.
Yeah, I agree. And even we're seeing countries like Iceland, if you see some of the
And yeah, it's and I think there's a lot of countries that really focus on that. But yeah, food's interesting, and the fact that we've got so many different foods to try, like it's like a smorgasbord, really, isn't it? What do we try first?
right, exactly. That's what I love that. And I love the fact that you're right. There are some certain countries, being that I was born and raised in the United States, it was kind of that old English of meat, potatoes, and a vegetable, which, that's just not as celebratory as like the Spanish or the Italians, where, eating
Mm,
is a very much of a celebration and it's, many courses oftentimes, or lots of, the tapas thing in Spain. When I was in Spain, it was a lot of fun to go out and, just the small bites where you could really try a variety of things. And it was exciting and fun and just added to the experience. And seeing things like, the olive oils or the wines or where they're getting different ingredients that are used in their cooking.
I don't know how they're not massive people over there. They have so many courses of meals. I tell you, after the second one, I'm like, please don't feed me any more food. I just couldn't eat
I
another thing. And they're on to their fifth course, and I'm like, oh my god, what have you got? Endless stomachs or
Right.
endless? I don't know, but
Exactly.
on them, good on them.
I know, exactly. I don't know. It's something in their being, and maybe it's all the walking and some of those small towns where the villages are all on
Yeah,
steep hills and they're walking. They're not getting in their car and just driving down the street. Yeah,
yeah,
there's something to be said for that. The other one that
yeah.
kind of
I
stuck
agree.
out was just a little bit, and it's a continuation, I know, of last year's travel trend, just the slow travel, just slowing down and
Mm,
trying not to, pack so much in. And I know I kind of screwed that up last summer. I just tried to pack way too many places into a short amount of time. And it happens because it's that whole idea of like, I may not get back to Spain, so I want to see 8 cities, and I may
mm,
not get back to Europe to see Prague and Budapest and Vienna. But by the end of it, it all was starting to blur together, and I learned my lesson. It was just way too much. I think there's something to be said for really, slowing down, maybe taking smaller chunks of time. A lot of people, if you're still working, look at those long weekends and look at cheap airfares and take advantage and pick one place and just go there with the idea that, the next time I have a short block of time, I'm going to go to this place. Instead of just running helter skelter, it's not good.
yeah, I would agree. I think if you do those tourist attractions and run around, you're not really getting the essence of a place. You're just touching the surface. If you can take it a bit slower and immerse yourself in your environment, I think you get a lot more. But obviously, people have got time restrictions sometimes, so
Yes,
it's a hard thing to do. But if you can do slow travel, you're doing a better thing because you're really seeing a place. And yeah, if you never get the opportunity to go there, you've given it your best shot, right? You've been over there, done a bit of slow travel, and you've seen the best that that place has got to offer. But again, it depends on people. Like, if you've got a lot of time, you can do
right.
that sort of thing. Someone might only give you a week, so you've got to really fit in what you can. So yeah, but it is. I really enjoy it too. When I can, I try and do a bit of that as well.
Yeah, and I hope that, as with more people, the pandemic did shine hopefully a light on the fact that people do need more of that work-life balance, no matter
Mm,
what country, but especially here in the United States. I know worldwide we end up giving our people the least amount of, I think, days off versus other countries.
mm,
And so just reevaluating that, allowing some of, maybe remote working and making more of
mm,
a effort to be more balanced so people have time to spend with their families and take them on excursions. I mean, education, as we both mentioned in other videos, is travel. I mean,
mm.
you meet people, you see that, people are, have a conversation with someone and we're all, it's not what's depicted oftentimes in the news or on TV. It's, we're all people. We all kind of want some of the general same values out of life.
Yeah, I find the best ideas I come up with are from conversations I've had with other people that has sparked something in my mind. Um, and yeah, that's part of travel. You've got to engage with others. If you're a solo travel, you can do a lot of that because people are more willing to approach you because you're on your own. But yeah, I would say if you have the opportunity to travel, do it. You don't, as we've said before, you don't want to get older and regret that you haven't traveled. You
Right.
want to go, I've had a good life and I've seen a lot and I'm happy.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And
Yeah.
look at all the
Yeah.
places I've been. And I think for any budget now, there's places to go. So it's just a matter of doing a little research, asking, reaching out to Linda or I for ideas if you're stumped or struggling. The
Mm.
internet does provide a lot of different, and sometimes it's, instead of going to Paris, in summertime when everyone else is going there, there's cheaper fares to be had for January and February. And yes, it might be a little bit colder, but so you bundle up and the year I went, I believe it was February, and it was the streets were quiet. I mean, the I walked right into the Louvre and the Mona Lisa, I think there were like five people in the room and a couple started dancing, and I'll never forget that they just started dancing over there in front of the painting and where the rest of us just it was quiet. It was so unexpected, when you've seen these photos where everyone's jockeying for a position just to see that one painting in the museum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can always put a jumper on or a sweater on. It's harder when you're hot to take clothes off.
Yes.
Not that you want to be doing that in public. Um, but um, but yeah, I agree with you. A lot of bargains to be had in shoulder and low season, and in times when people don't really travel. So yeah, if you're looking to do budget travel, you need to flip your idea of travel, of going in peak season, and go in low and shoulder because you will get to see more places, and it won't cost you as much. And that's the absolute goal for any traveller is to see as much as they can on the less amount of money so they can then save up to go on that next trip.
Yes. I so love that. It's incredible. So, Linda, share, you have a website where people can grab your books with all the stories of your travels, and I'd love to hear.
Yes, so yeah, so they can go to thesmarttravelista.com with two T's. And I've got information about my books. I've got the blog and a few other travel resources. But yeah, come over for a visit. Happy to have anyone ask travel questions. Love chatting with people as we are doing now. Yeah, love it. So please feel free to go to that part of the internet and pay me a visit.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Linda. This is April with the Dash Travel Collective, and I'm sure we'll be chatting again about another topic soon. So, thank you so much for your time.